afternoon. It's Shirley with Spirit of Matter, and I just realized that there's nothing more Mercury retrograde in my tent than doing an astrology forecast for January, omitting the ingress of Pluto to Aquarius. And then I look at Dan and my feed, and it's like, oh, Pluto is going to Aquarius in January, and it's going to be a big month. And I'm like, damn, you're right. I did everything but Pluto. So this is such a big Mercury retrograde episode. And part of it I was already recording when Mercury was turning direct. I can't even. So Mercury, um, um, yeah, did its thing. It's now direct in shade period. And I have to correct my astrology forecast for January. So just to finish up with the ingress of Pluto. This is happening on January 21st. Okay, so we have Uranus going direct, which is a big deal. And then we have another ingress of Pluto to Aquarius. And I think it will still go retrograde. I think it's 18 months. I'm not even sure it's like the last one. Is this the last one? I don't even know. At this point in my Pluto journey, I don't even know. But yeah. Okay. Let's just go do it. So Pluto is ingressing on January 21st, again to Aquarius. And now, I have also been one of the people that were saying the power is coming to the people, we the people. And, it's kind of like I totally forgot my teenage years where, you kind of have a 12th house perfection and you kind of feel like, not even the black sheep. You kind of like, it's not the black sheep because you're not outcast. You're kind of like, you're isolating yourself from this mob. Like, are these people going to grow up? And when Pluto was retrograde in Aquarius, we saw mob attacking a homeless person on the train instead of helping them. Okay? And we already see what the mob is doing, okay, what we the people are doing to we the people, the bringing back of types of racism that we haven't been seen accentuated in this way in like a century. And I'm sure that there is more to that because I don't know what's happening like in Africa, in Asia, and how has that been expressed? Like, we really need astrologers that have this century-long perspective on the things that are not just Western and Middle Eastern, because this is so missing in scholarly thought. By, of course, we know by default of who, but this is called for and this is needed. So Pluto, yes, the power is coming to the people. Now that doesn't mean that people know how to use the power in a way that is effective, because if the people are still fed by all kinds of cultish and spiritual and religious dogmas that are outdated, it's going to be some 2 decades of people sorting the way out of these cults. Okay, and no one is exempt. Okay, no one is exempt because we are all being taught a story. Okay, if you would ask probably my offender from academia, how was he taught in his secret societies or whatnot, the image of Ugol, he would probably say a seductress, a woman that only wants thee, and then she got what she wanted times 10. Okay, this is probably what he was taught. He had no idea what was coming up for him. Very much actually around his solar return, I think that I began to wise up and see that there's something going on here and is growing in the direction of offender rather than in the direction of someone who's been through a crisis and is recovering from that. So, so for a person to grow up with this image of, let's say, Algol as this snake goddess, this seductress, it's the symbol of Versace. It's the seductress, the one that draws in, that magnetizes, that has power over men. And I grew up with a completely other notion of the same deity, okay, of the Medusa Gorgon, of protecting yourself from misuse of energy, okay, misuse of occultism, protecting your sexual boundaries in spirit and in matter, protecting your voice as you speak up against atrocities. And you see how when Pluto is going to go to Aquarius, Aquarius is still Saturn ruled. Saturn is Orthodox religion, or the antithetical version. Okay? For example, if you had a problem with the Orthodox, you might have ideation of atheism. While atheistic people can be as dogmatic and as rapey. You know, it's not just the Orthodox and the church that rapes children. We know that, some of us, but if somebody has this from a religious trauma, they will seek refuge, or perhaps will seek savior is in the more atheistic realm or in science, okay? And with, when Neptune was going over Aquarius, a lot of us perhaps sought refuge in the medical world to resolve our problems and our issues, or are marginalized, the place where we've been marginalized in society, and so on and so forth. That was a little bit the beginning of the Prozac age. Later, Neptune would go into Pisces, but the Prozac age was still within Neptune Aquarius, where we sought for a pill to kill depression, but this pill only made people more suicidal. That has not changed up until 2023, but this is the situation. Pluto going into Aquarius, yes, we think about all the booming of technology, alien technology, the cosmos, the great vast, okay? Aquarius is the sign before Pisces. If Pisces, we have no boundaries between this realm and other realms, and things kind of blend into each other. In Aquarius, we think about this, but more in terms of outer space, and in terms of trying to explain these things scientifically. Okay, so we will have a lot of advancement around the nervous system and how we can project ourselves to time and space. Okay, what is the science behind astral projection? Okay, that person that suddenly started touching you in your sleep, and you don't know where the fuck did that coming from, until some African girl had a garlic remedy for this. Then how did they do that? Okay, they were not spiritual, they were not ritualistic in particular way. How were they? What is the science behind those things? Or how come you feel your orgasm of your partner when you're having sex, and it's kind of like the positive connection of that, and you may have had these anomalies in your intimate experience, or you have shared dreams or telepathy. What is the science behind this, of waves, of frequencies? We're going to be looking more into that kind of stuff. With Uranus and Taurus, we already began to have simulation for menstruation. Okay, so men could feel, or people without wombs could feel, what does it feel to be menstruating? But also sex toys where you can feel the sexual pleasure of your partner. So let's say they have a penis, you can feel it in their waist. So you could do it with technology, that is Uranus and Taurus, or you could do it with projection or astral projection, or energy sex or energy intimacy. It is not only around sex, it can be a conversation, people getting into your dreams and such. all of these virtual reality kind of a thing becomes very real, both technologically and not technologically. Okay, with Pluto, there is going to be a mass realization of the power of this. Okay, and people are going to look to be empowered by knowing the science of. So it's going to both be attempting to gaslight us with science. We've already seen that happening. This is no news. But it will also be people who will try to find the power in learning the science. And when, in the beginning, those who gaslight you maybe think you are stupid. And so they say, oh, this poor person that grew up in the working class, they can go to academia, they can study, they will not understand anything. Okay, or this person that grew up, I don't know, in this or that country, or coming from this and that family, yeah, let them learn some ABC, okay? But you learn the ABC, and some of the people will be looking at what they're being taught and not think much about this. But others are naturally curious, and they're going to be exposed to more data, so they're going to ask questions. Okay, they're not going to take things at face value. Yes, if I studied philosophy of science and the philosophy around the medical research before COVID, and I see that there are things that I'm being told that there is way more room for doubt in the absolute truth that I'm being presented. And there are also things that seem to work that are not coming from this particular method for acquiring scientific medical information. Okay, so I go and explore and I ask questions. And it can be something as simple as, oh, well, I tried this pill, not even COVID, okay? I tried this pill, maybe it will help, I don't know, my moods, my this, my that, but I see it doesn't work, so maybe I will try another pill, and then I see I'm sick of all these pills and the side effects is so terrible. Maybe it's time that I will try something else and see what can I do, because but then I see that if I am suddenly studying and enjoying my studies, then I am feeling better, or that even if I feel bad moods, then I am more whole with the situation, or I see that, oh, when I have actually a place to safe to be that I love to be in, then my moods are different. Okay, then I see what works for me, right? A lot of people will begin to have these realizations, and they will begin to ask questions. And so the power of science would be used kind of like the power of religion to control the masses, but then the masses are going to ask questions. Now, of those people that are controlling, some of them are not malefic. Some of them are saying, okay, people have literally no idea what it's like to be in this world. They think I will drink the water and I will grow my plants and everything will be okay, but your water is polluted since Manhattan Project and even before that, and your fruits and veggies are not going to have the nutrients that you expect them to have. So you can't really be vegan even when you try to grow organically, unless you, I don't know, found some egg veldt and you can protect yourself from all the natural disasters that are happening and the unnatural disasters that are happening, okay? And so some of these people are not malefic towards you. They're just like, well, there are things you absolutely don't know, and the situation, the nature of nature has changed. So there are things you need to know. You need to do your research. You need to do your science. You need to understand what is actually going on so that you can establish your self-assertion, okay? Growing you up, okay? This is also the role of Saturn. It's kind of like the father. You really need to know what you're doing, because if you think I'm just going to grow a vegan settlement of Israelis and Palestinians and LGBTQ and everybody will be free, fine, but what will you eat, okay? oh, we're gonna be vegan, we're gonna be this. I heard Mark Bayerski has been doing auction and has had a business and can afford himself to move wherever he wants on the freaking planet. I don't know how he gets his water. I don't know how he gets his nutrients. I don't know these things, okay? Do you have this wealth? Do you have this ability? No, I can build houses of sand. But on the land, which land are you going to settle? Some lands there were weddings of children forced and pedophilia forced things, and this has not changed, and the mutilation of genitalia of men and of women, of penises and of vaginas, and the soil becomes so sandy that it cannot absorb water. You cannot even build a house with the soil. Okay, some Middle Eastern and Arab countries buy sand, even though they have dunes of sand, because they cannot build with the sand. Okay, there is history to this sand. How are you going to do what you came here to do? Okay, you must understand that when you create the alternative, you say, I'm going to work hard. Really, your alternative for working camps and destruction camps and death camps is to work hard. Come on. Why is this working camps bad? Okay, because according to you, you should be working hard. It should be okay. Arbeit macht frei, right? No, but because we did not take into account the people in our society that have disability, and so everybody began to have disability. Okay, whether it's from the water, from everything, it became pandemic because we did not calculate correctly how to take care of these people, and our ancestors used to kill these people, so our ancestors were genocided. Okay, now Pluto in Aquarius, it is time in humanity where those people, what people call the mob, but not just the mob, the people, not the regimes, not the leaders, the people begin to get the power, because if you don't experience this, you will never know how to blend in, because Pluto's next journey is not Aquarius, it's Pisces. And Pisces is such of the outer planets, except for Aries and later Sedna, that we work with today. Neptune has the longevity of implication for actions that is the highest, okay? That is absolutely the highest. Neptune, as it finishes up with Pisces, it will go to Aries, but Pluto will go to Neptune's sign, okay? And this is not the time to talk about Jupiter's sign. Yes, it is Jupiter's sign. Jupiter is the traditional ruler, but it is also modernly associated with Neptune's sign. And you will see that because the things that will be brought up by Pisces, okay, you can work with Pisces as Pisces or Pisces as Poseidon, that is Neptune. And because Pisces is about the cosmic water pre-creation, so we are working with the things that were in the pre-linguistic, the pre-creation, the pre-separation of the elements, okay, the cosmic waters. It's also pre-religion. We have religious stories about this, but it's also pre-religion, because nothing is created yet. If there is no man to conceive God, it doesn't mean that there isn't God, but there is no religion, because religion necessitates a being that is a religious being. Okay, you might argue with me philosophically, but we are on the passage of pre-linguistic power, okay? And what do infants experience before they are born? Okay, this is where we are heading, and the cosmic waters of creation, but also the great vast, also Neptune itself, okay, also the cosmos itself, pre-linguistic communication, pre-linguistic experience, and now we are at the top of our actually linguistic, and there are I saw a Twitter account that was posting a hypothesis that Mercury is exalted in Aquarius, and of course they were ambushed like, I don't know, like a pack of stupid mob coming to surround them. You don't have to agree with them, okay? But it is a part of making a hypothesis, and if we talk about the air sign, then the air sign before Pisces is Aquarius. It's the most linguistic sign. It is the sign of scientific understanding, of trying to conceive the spiritual with language and with the nervous system and with explanations that are scientific. Okay, so we go to dynamic systems, to chaotic systems. We go to the patterns in chaos. We go to explore the weather as well. Okay, with chaotic systems, we can attempt at explaining the weather. We also already have interference in the weather since the previous scientific revolution, and this is a time of scientific revolutions, but this is also the time where we understand that what we think is new is actually ancient. Okay, it is the closest to Pisces that we can do with words. Absolutely, Mercury has affinity with Aquarius if we take this interpretation. Yes, there is reasoning to think, it is not mine, that Mercury has an exaltation point in Aquarius. It's not far-fetched. Okay, you don't have to do a Uranus for that. You can do a Mercury for that if you want to work with the traditional planets. It is the most you can express of the cosmos with words, with rules, okay, with technique, with skill, okay, with technology. This is where we have built spaceships, where we merge with the human and the robot, okay. That does depend on how it will express itself in your own chart, okay. The theme of the man, the human, and the creation that is technological infused. Okay, it can be like a Frankenstein, but it can also be a more modern version of transhumanism. Okay, Frankenstein is not a robot that I create and I teach. Okay, the robots that are being sent to war now and already are being sent to war, they are being taught how to fight. Okay, by whom? By humans. So we have this blending of that which is human and that which is technological. All of this is something that people have both great fears from, but also great hopes. Okay, think about people that can grow a bionic hand and regrow their hand, regrow their limbs. Okay, with Saturn and Gemini, this is unfortunately going to be very, very, very necessary. But there are also going to be advancements. Okay, people who could not feel. Usually, if you are able to recover your nervous system, it takes 6 months to practice the vagus nerve, so that you can regain your light. Okay, in these zones of your nervous systems, and reconnect things that the connection was lost. It can take 6 months. If a person is recovering, let's say, from depression, this affects the nervous system, so you can't expect them to 6 months be depressed. Okay, especially if so the fear was that as they get out of this depression, they can try to unalive themselves, because now they have the energy to do something that they have fantasized doing for 6 months. This has gained momentum also from a spiritual point of view. Okay, they express the desire that wants to come into fruition, and right now, when they can get to live, we want to proceed that. So having a technology that can interfere and re-enliven the nervous system in shorter period can diminish the momentum of the death wish and actually save lives of people, both on a mental level, but also on a physical level. Okay, if what has been shut in the nervous system is not about your moods or something like this, but about your limbs and being able to move your body, so some people might be able to regain their movement, their freedom of movement. And I think about this philosophically just as much as you think about it physically, the freedom of movement. Okay, currently beta blockers, they limit the freedom of movement and the freedom of expression of people. Okay, they are anti-social drugs given to people. For whatever the reasoning, we don't know, but the thing is that most people who experience these mental difficulties, actually what they need is autonomy over the body, freedom of expression, which allows this autonomy, because sooner or later they might have they cross the threshold and they begin to speak, and then they need to be validated, and so This is how you get psychosis. Okay, go to open dialogue. It's not. I did not invent any of this. And so, what happens in these situations is that people need actually freedom of movement because they've been in violent circumstances. Then either they were freezing, or that they were constrained, and now they need the freedom of movement. So actually, if we interfere chemically, the interference should actually usher in freedom of movement. And if we think about the Parkinson, then we want to basically relax the nervous system, but not to shut the motion down, but to find a creative expression where you're fearless to express your creativity. This is a part of this. It's not the entire story. But we are going to be thinking differently. So people will be asking questions. You will definitely have scientific discoveries. It's just that to get the scientific discovery to become a consensus is going to be a problem, because many people are going to try and use science washing, okay? For example, we saw towards the end, or we've seen towards the end of Pluto in Capricorn, how our very own, the countries that have had elections, okay, supposedly democracies, how this blue pill or red pill, okay, and eventually it's those who have the wealth that run the nations, where you get to choose the face of the executor, and sometimes not even that. So we have a lot to learn from the previous industrialized age, from the last time Pluto has been in Aquarius, because there are many things that we were taught about this time that a lot of the missing information, we're going to see it enacting today. Okay, we were taught about the French Revolution. They omitted the fact that those who rebelled were the landowners. First of all, not everybody were landowners. This is perhaps how slavery survived the Pluto Aquarius, okay, or shouldn't have been surviving. Yes, but people who have lands, they make revolutions. People who don't have lands, like Adolf Hitler, that was homeless, will later, if they come into the secret societies, and believe me, they try to recruit you everywhere to everything. Then these people, they make world wars. They don't make revolutions. Okay, so let people have lands. The most they will make is revolutions. And so we are seeing that we were taught about the industrialized age, but they omitted fluoride, okay? That the only good use of fluoride was the A-bomb, and of course that was the best use that we could come up with as humanity. We don't know enough about the kamikaze. Why were there kamikaze? Who were the kamikaze? Okay, now when people think about terror, okay, terror versus freedom fighters, okay? Who were the kamikazes? Why were they kamikazes? Yes, why were they kamikazes? Were they people that were kidnapped children that did not have anything and were tortured until they wanted death, and then they would understand that there is, or they would believe that they are going against the enemy, or I don't know, they would just wanted to explode something, to blow something up, and that's that, or what is other things we don't know. Okay, there are many things that we don't know about the ages of the industrialized revolution, and then when Pluto will be between Cancer and Leo, and Mars is going to do a retrograde in these exact locations in 2024. So we want to be watching out for that. Again, some of this probably my colleagues have been talking about, but I am I'm doing like, I'm looking at the things before I watch other people's stuff. So if I mention something that was already said, it's just because I didn't watch it yet. Okay, it's not because anything other reason. But the thing is that Pluto going to Aquarius is going to be the intricacy of the many things that also were hidden from the time of the industrialized revolutions, and from the times of the French Revolution, the foundation of the United States, American Revolution, And there were also many cultish dogmas, I think cultish dogmas, ideas, religions, and so on, that were prevalent at the time. And we are already seeing this right now. And the thing is that this is cultism that is not new to us, but how should I say it? Aquarius is the antithetical leader that becomes a tyrant. Okay, so it's the anti-guru, okay, and this anti-guru may be asking of you not to follow them, not to listen to what they say, but nonetheless will have hidden subversive tactics to get your attention. And it can be intentional and it can be not intentional. So people are going to be following these gurus now, because this is a changing time where all structures crumble. And these are our consciousness structures, our religious structures, what we knew about our religion. We have a booming of the art, the esoteric arts as well. We have a little bit of a renaissance, and par with all kinds of forces to try to take in control. But the time is of the collapse of the big trees, okay? And this was also industrialization time, okay? You think about how many trees were cut, but it's the collapse of the giant trees as well. Saturn rules agriculture. And to think about the centuries of dynasties and wisdoms that have a lot of wisdom to give, but they also have had things that were prolonged, like generational curses being broken at this time. This can be, okay? Intergenerational, I'm thinking way more than 7 generations back. Saturn rules the teeth. So more people are learning about working with our ancestors, but also having a voice, because what the ancestors did, the way things were during their time, is not the way things are today. Okay, I began with the Algol myth and how people studied Algol and perhaps were looking at the woman that basically was a victim of sexual violence in childhood. And they were looking at her as this seductress, this woman that has power over them, and she wants, the snakes as a penis, okay? And it's kind of looking at it like the story of Indra and thinking, oh, she betrayed, and so she got her, her reward, sozusagen, and so on and so forth. All the while, my generation, when we grew up with the magical uses, okay, when you study esoteric and you talk about the magical uses of alcohol, you already are introduced to Medusa Gorgon, that was raped and not believed, that was comfortable in her sensuality and proud, yes, but she was not believed that when she was raped, and she was also devoted to Pallas Athena, and she did not receive Pallas Athena's belief, and she was seen as a traitor. In fact, she was raped, not believed, and her rage from this situation became so big that as she was slaughtered, she was beheaded, she could turn every man who looked at her face, okay, her face were turned to stone, she could turn every man to stone, because the rage would get them to freeze like she froze when she was raped and not believed and murdered, okay? Think about the existential gap between these civilizations. This is the clash of civilizations, folks, okay? It's a point of the clash of civilizations. Think about how I see it, and how a person who thinks a woman that was that they don't even know was sexually harassed in childhood, and see her as a seductress that only wants the D, and she got hers if she was raped and murdered. Okay, think about the existential gap here, and think about how many such existential gaps are coming into fruition at this time. And now the structures that were governing us, yes, they need to collapse, okay? Because young girls cannot grow up with the notion of if a young girl is raped then and she tries to regain her security and her sensuality. Think about Marilyn Monroe as a modern figure that went through sexual boundary violation in childhood and said, no, I am a sensual woman. She became a sex symbol, although in her life she could not have an orgasm until like her 30s or so. And was very much victimized by all the surroundings, even though she did the best she could to be independent business-wise and not give up on her sexuality and having a sexual experience that she enjoys. Okay, she was very groundbreaking at this point, but also a very tragic story. Young girls cannot grow up to those old trees, okay, to those old structures. It can no longer persist. Humanity can no longer persist when we have oppressed certain margins of our society all that much. And we don't even know who these margins, okay? Algol is one point, there are many fixed stars, Aries is another. It's the marginalized of the marginalized. And people are trying to have a baby step in locating them, okay? A lot of the Gen Zers are kind of looking at the people of Palestine and think, oh, they have been repressed for 75 years and so on and so forth. And now they hate the Jews, but then they forget that the Jews also need a place to live. And so they are having, the world is having a baby steps, okay, into trying to understanding, first of all, that we cannot sit on the fence and not interfere because it's going to come around, okay? It's going to be in your city, it's going to be in your village, it's going to be with your people involved. Yes, you cannot sit on the fence, you have to make an opinion, or even the opinion to say, like the Southern men in the United States, they say, don't come us to with this kulululu, we don't want that, we see a flag that is not American, this scares us white folk, we're going to shoot you. We say, bang, and that's it, okay? This is also expressing an opinion. And you would say the same thing if it was Israeli flag, don't worry. Yes, it's not taking sides. It's just like, don't come with this mess to this place we act in a certain way. It has its pros and cons, okay? If you are, pro-choice, then might not be working, right? So the thing is that the old trees are dying. The old trees are crumbling. The old structures are crumbling. There is pros to that, and there is cons to that. There are things that we need to learn from ancestry, and there are things that, hey, folks, a young child that has been sexually abused or raped is not the Indra, okay? This little girl is not Indra. She's not Indra. Maybe there are more teachings about people who are offenders that we don't know, and that the childhood suffering is absolutely, and if they can be healing, and absolutely, yes, yeah. These young children, okay, that you rape in Thailand, in this place, in that place, yes, they're not Indra. They don't want the D. Okay? The world cannot go, humanity cannot go on. How many countries, where will you buy sand from? Where will you buy sand from to build your houses? Where will you buy sand from? Okay, the Arab countries buying sand where they have dunes of sand. Why? Because the sand is so dry, no water, no humidity, not nada, no fertility, nothing, because they have ravished every living soul living there for so long, for so centuries, that there's nothing can grow here. You can't even build a house with this. They have to buy sand from other countries. Okay, what, do you want the whole world to buy sand? Okay, so some old structures, even though they had great wisdom, they have to fall. At the same time, we have baby steps in trying to understand what's right, okay? When people see drawing, there is nothing more iconic of the times that we are living in than a Stanford poster marking from the river to the sea, where they put the sea and the river on the opposite directions, okay? And they paint the Israel and Palestine, okay? So there is nothing more iconic of the fall of the great structures, like the Ivy League, like the academia, like the plutocracy behind this, then Stanford students that think, or Oxford students that think that no German person was killed at the bombing on Dresden. Okay, this is something that I can laugh about, but I only get to laugh about this because I was born a generation before that. Yes, I would be that if I would be born just a generation later. So there's nothing, it's not a laughing matter. It's not that these people are stupid. It's just that these old trees are crumbling. And now we're trying to have a baby step. So people calling for genocide, believing that they're saving people from genocide. And this is what is best described in a book that I believe is a must read for everyone at this time. And this is L'Homme Rebelle by Albert Camus. Okay, L'Homme Rebelle describes the youth revolutions and the tragedy of the youth revolutions, having the energy to rebel, but not the clue as to what needs to be changed and how. While the elderly, they understand more of what needs to be changed and how, but they are, they have their back pain and they have their ears ringing and they have, and this is true, I'm at my 40s, I have Saturn going through my first house. Yes, I don't have the energies that I had when I was before fourth grade, let's say. Then I could be, I was a runner, I was a this, I was a that. Then came fourth grade, poof, Saturn was in my first house again, I believe. And then there was nobody to talk with. Okay, I could literally not run anymore. And that's something that I learned at a very young age. Okay, so L'Homme Rebelle is a must read for the spirit of the times, and to think, how do we still communicate, because it's up to those older generations to be more flexible and learn from the younger generations, because they see the world differently. Okay, younger generations were way more connected with the trees and nature than older generations, even if you were like grown and embraced. I'm half Dutch, so I was embraced on the love of nature and traveling and the simple life. When I was traveling the entire Europe, we were not traveling in the cities hardly ever, but only looking for the small roads. But this is how I knew nature. Okay, I did not speak to trees or anything like that, and I did not feel like the depression that younger people have. And the first when I thought about this, climate depression, I was like, well, how do they mean that? And there was in the first day, like, what are they talking about? But then I realized that I've gotten old, because I had myself suffered from what they called seasonal depression. But now I understand there's nothing wrong about the season, is that they are in contact with the trees better and with nature better, and they see nature is being destructed. They just know it, whereas I needed to learn about this intellectually to understand what was happening to nature. Okay, simply because with different generations. So Pluto, yes, the power is coming to the people, but the people have no idea what to do with that. And so a lot of people will actually be longing for, you think about the release from Egypt, you think about the release from kingship, and you think about people longing for the safety of structure that they once did have. Okay, for example, how many people of us are living under the well-being of the welfares? I am one of them. Okay, I'm one of them, and so when you and it's not because I don't want to work, it's because I was not able to work. So it's not like there is something I can do right now to take responsibility of. No, it's just like either people will help me and I help myself with what I can, or I will just perish. Okay, and how many people have other things that where the country did protect them? Okay, if we have young youth that think that women are hoes and women are this and women are that, they are also part of we the people. Okay, and so maybe you had some structures that protected you from them, and now these structures are going to crumble as well. Yes,
So it's going to be a lot of slaughter, because people are going to have to protect themselves. If they are not successful, then it's very terrible. And if they are successful, it means that they are mass killing people. That they're going to have, every other person will have to be a mass murderer just to stay alive. Yes, because if you go out, if you, let's say you live in a woman, you living in a village, okay? And there are all these kind of structures forbidding people from doing ambush on you, okay? And let's say one of every one or so of such women is going to have to either do witchcraft or do something or become a mass murderer, because when you, the minute you get into the house, the minute you get out of the house, you have to kill maybe 100 people, maybe 300 people, because all of them think they are coming for you, that you want the deal. Okay, so you give them a gun in the, you may, the only way for them to age fine is for them to make wine out of them. um, and so some women will perish, and some women will begin to be mass murderers, because this is the only way for them to get by. How do you think people went through the Holocaust? Okay, they have to do things. Yes, you come to this place and people think, oh, women are like this, women are like that, and you say, I survived the camp, union for you, and I'm going to shoot you in the head, I'm going to take your house. And if I can't shoot you, then I'll use what knife, whatever I have, okay? Because it is on your life that you are fighting. I'm very scared from this. Um, and on the other hand, we may find that there are a type of people that we didn't even know that we can suddenly run into. Okay, so suddenly we may have been isolated in a certain way, but then we run into people who have dreams and ideas that are actually useful for us. Okay, and to sift and sort those things, because there are people that have very kind intentions. Okay, I believe that most of the people who cry free Palestine from the river to the sea are basically crying to kill everybody, including the Christians, the LGBTQ. I believe that most of them are not like believing that they are doing in favor of the killing of someone, but in favor of the liberating of someone. Yes, but it is baby steps. So the people are stepping in baby steps, and it's kind of like a lot of them are even the teenagers that are beginning to rebel, and they have the energy, but they don't really know what's going on, and they see things that the older generation does not see, but at the same time they don't see some things that the older generation does see. For example, I'll give my example because it's more authentic. When I was during the pre-Me Too era, first of all, I did not see that there was coming a Me Too era. Okay, I was crossing the threshold from not being able to speak about my trauma, so much so that before they don't know what's energy, I had a therapist that was doing EMDR, and I went to him especially because I read that men who went through sexual trauma, they have EMDR and they don't require them to speak about the trauma, because I couldn't speak. Okay, I also didn't know exactly what relates to what, and I couldn't speak. So I went to EMDR. And then happened sugar-free lemonade. Before sugar-free lemonade, I crossed a certain threshold and I could not stop speaking, okay? And then I couldn't stop speaking, and all of this on Facebook, okay? So the situation was that I just, something, had to be coming out to the world, and I did not even understand all of the things that were going on there. And the person who was supposed to help me sort this out basically had astral sex with me. And the beginning, some of it was volitional okay with me, but some of it later became not okay. And then he started to threaten me, and they don't know what's energy. So now I call him, they don't know what's energy. But the thing is that I had no idea that maybe my offender is in secret societies. I had no idea that that there were a chain of human trafficking within the academia. Okay, I was like, what the fuck is this thing? I just come to work, and they want me to do other things that are not work. Darling, if I wanted to do other things that are not work, I would publish myself in some other places. Okay, if I wanted to be sex worker, I'm survivor of sexual violence. How can I be sex worker? Okay, if you talk about sex positive sex work, if there is such a thing at all, so the fuck is this? And I just spoke up. I had no idea who am I speaking with. I had no idea that there's actual human trafficking going on. I had no idea that every man that is above my age is probably has been involved in maybe group rape, in maybe molestation, in maybe all these things. Okay, it's somebody's lover, it's somebody's man, it's somebody's husband, somebody's son, somebody's brother, somebody's sister. So now it's very difficult. And these are the people that you live around. Okay, they are not just bad people. There are also people that care about the future, that give you advice, that this, that, and so on and so forth. So I had no idea. I was just coming out with this, and that was igniting more things that I could ever imagine, and it's probably linked to why my psychologist. The later psychologist would go, and why my previous psychologist fainted. Because when I started to speak, he fainted. He literally fainted in front of me. And why the other psychologist behaved the way that he behaved, okay? And later I will find out that the psychologist, that they don't know what's energy, was also supposed to say which children will be taken from their parents and which not, to the welfare. And the welfare is globally, not just the children of Yemen and Israel, is globally involved with kidnapping children. Like, who knew? For me, I was just like, hey, I am trying to understand, is it my trauma or is it something that they are doing? And they're doing something weird with the energy, but I can't talk about this. People will say I am the crazy one. And I also need to understand what's going on. And then I started speaking. They shot me out and sugar-free lemonade was born. That's what's up, okay? A lot of humanity, the younger generation, are gonna be having similar experiences because you're just rebelling. You're like, hey, I don't like genocide. And then somebody comes at you and you say, you know, I think Israel did it to themselves. Do you know that many Israelis are saying, oh my God, they didn't come for us for 8 hours. They didn't this. And there was something that happened also in 73. Okay, if you even have the ear to listen. Yes, and then some people will talk about the real estate. Or how come they have, a million people now suddenly have apartments in the central cities, 50-minute cities, and all the homeless there are still homeless in Tel Aviv. How come people are housed, but they're still homeless in Tel Aviv? That doesn't make sense. Who are the homeless? People who escaped violence, people who are refugees and so on, but also people who are citizens and escaped violence. Like, what is going on? Okay, there is something on the real estate level is going on, yes? But you were like, oh, free Palestine, the world, or in the Israel, the world has not the privilege to ignore what's happening in the middle. 6 million people are being slaughtered in Congo. That's a Holocaust too, numerically even. And that's just what's up, because we are understanding that we have to step in as people and interfere, but we have no idea what we're doing. And the power is in our hands. The power is in our hands. It's what we, the people, do to we, the people. You're going to see a homeless person creating havoc on the train. Do you have the understanding that they are trying to get arrested so that they will not freeze at night? Because jail can be safer for them. Or do you think that this is just a crazy idiot that should be getting a job, and then you try to kill them as a mob, and you let a person who is a veteran, so they have their trauma triggered and they think they're killing some terrorist? And so you, the people, we, the people, should be holding back this veteran and saying, hey, this is not Iraq, okay? This is a person that's just trying to get arrested because they don't have a place to stay and something to eat. Everything is fine, everything is cool. We're gonna hold this person, we're gonna hold that person, and we're gonna help both of these people, okay? None of you has this wisdom. None of you. You know who have a little bit of this wisdom? Israelis. And even here, there are veterans that burn themselves alive because they were homeless. Okay, and veterans that try to warn the police and say, before the 6th of October, and they knew that there's going to happen something, and they tried to warn people, they tried to go to the police, and people thought they're just a junkie in the street, and the rest is history, or her story, in this case. So yes, the power is coming to the people. The people just having baby steps at understanding power, at understanding social situations. Okay, we are supposed to replace our governments. Okay, if will do like our ancestors, that is to kill infants because there is nobody to take care of them, to kill the disabled because nobody's to take care of them. Okay, this is what Hitler will do in the concentration camps. It's also what's being done all around the world, like in US right now. Yes, but this is what Hitler will do. We are setting up the stage for Pluto in Cancer and Leo right now. Because our ancestors, what did they know? They know that if we can't take care of this person, then we kill them because there is not enough food for them. If we can't make it better than our ancestors, and we can turn to our ancestors, maybe have the wisdom from where they are now, what they would do different, or they can point us at doing different things. Because eventually, yes, before all of this, then we had the COVID, and we had a generation that could no longer work, and they were neurodivergent. Why they were neurodivergent? Because there were toxins in the foods, in the water. They were very sensitive too. Why were there toxins? Oh, because there was industrialized revolution, and there were byproducts that were polluting the water. What happened during the industrialized revolution? Well, people had more free days, actually, but they were working like robots, so the working was boring, and they become crazy, not because they didn't have free days, because later they rebelled, but because they were working like crazy, and then the work was boring. Okay, so these youth, they can't take it. They are neurodivergent. They need a space. They're sensitive to noise. They're sensitive to this. They cannot be on schedule. But if they're working for something they're passionate about, they find creative ways to do stuff. So they just need a different environment, or that they are just coming prepared to the working schedule that we will have when we will no longer be able to rely on the corporation. You won't be able to rely on the 9 to 5, the schedule that you once had. So there are a lot of things that once kept us going, a lot of structures that once kept us going and will no longer be. And at the same time, there is interconnectedness between the generations, and what seems like an ailment is somewhat of a remedy to the previous generations and the previous structures. Yeah, to sift and sort what needs to stay, what needs to go, and to find a creative solution where those people that we are killing because we think we cannot sustain them, okay, those people, we are basically killing our solution because eventually the tactic of the working camps is very much similar. Okay, if you can work, you will do forced labor and you will be a slave basically, and if you cannot work, then we'll exterminate you because you are not able to be a part of the workforce. Okay, anything that lines up with that in our ancestry, any over ideation of hard work, okay, especially now when Chiron is still in Aries, we are tending to, because those who will build our countries, okay, those who build the United States were thieves and liars and cheaters and people who escaped taxation and had to do a little bit of organized crime to build the country, okay? True to every country. It's true for the founders of every country. Yes, the founders are people who had no choice. Necessity was the mother of invention, but they had some value to give. It's just they did it in that very peculiar way, okay? But they were escaping something rightfully, okay? They were escaping something could no longer sustain. Some debt could no longer be sustained. And so they had to rebel because they couldn't pay so much taxes to the kingdom. It was becoming overwhelming. And so if we build our alternative in such a way that we think, oh, people must work very hard, must this, must that, we must understand that the founders of our solution are the person on the wheelchair, and the person that cannot work too much, and the person that works very, very hard, but you have to repeat after them everything they do, because this is coping mechanism. They just cannot sleep because they went through some trauma, so they constantly pick at the trees and do this and do that, and they're doing things that are like not good. But you cannot tell them because you don't have the heart to. Okay, this is the founders of our new nations. Whatever the word, whatever these nations may consist of. Okay, because nation is an outdated term. Also the nation state. So those are our founders who knew about the 7th of October before it happened. The junkie in the street, because he served in 73 war, and it was exactly the same story. If you listen to the junkie in the street, then you are more safe than if you don't. Yes, so you have to listen to the crazy person, to the junkie in the street, to the disabled person that tells you about athletics. Yes, that tells you about you will learn about how much stamina you have to make something work from the person who is on the wheelchair, not from the person who is running right now. Because the person who is running right now, they believe they will have this power forever. You learn about how to have good sex from this person that went through sexual boundary violation, because they will tell you that if something crosses your boundaries and you freeze, is sometimes because it's trauma reaction. You shouldn't judge yourself, and you also should inform your partner when your partner is not like a rapist or so. So they will teach you stuff that the difficulties that you will run into, because they know. Okay, when you have people, everything going well for them, you can learn from successes, absolutely. But it's like, yes, I have had a friend that was doing a lot of good things, but she went through tremendous crisis, and she was going through this herself, and she had found power within herself in a tremendous way. It's a great success story. And now she just works at the pizza and continue on her life. I don't know if she still works right now because of the war, but yes. And she thinks everybody can do this. Everybody can work at the pizza. Anyway, well, the pizza is also, she's fighting against the cartels, the drug cartels of pharmaceuticals. And I say to her, but you know who hides the drug cartels? How do they hide? The business that is most known is pizza. It's the pizza business. They will not target you because you have a husband, you have children. But a person that is still going through trauma, they will be targeted. They will be isolated, they will be singled out, and it's going to happen in the same business. You are not going to even know about this. So people cannot work in those daytime jobs. So what can they do? Maybe they can be tarot readers, maybe they can be astrologers, maybe they can do whatever it is that they can do. Okay, and she wouldn't listen, so I had to cut the connection. So the people that are going to tell you, that are going to say, well, you're going to win it every chance, you're going to win it, they're just leading you directly to the gas chamber. So this is why I omitted this yesterday, because I just forgot. But Pluto ingressing is beyond the 20-year cycle. It's a 300-year cycle. And if you don't want to find yourself again walking to the gas chambers thinking you're going to get a shower, or already knowing you're not going to get a shower but not knowing what to do about this, and maybe that is preferred, then the onset will be of what's happening around these 2 years. And the onset is when we try to create alternative for Agenda 2030 and everything surveilled and everything this and everything that. Are we going for the death camps, or are we actually creating a sustainable alternative where there is a place for the disabled, there is a place for the marginalized, there is a place for the townsfolk. Okay, and there are many townsfolk right now because all of us are dealing with traumas. Yes, there is a place, and and there's going to need to be space, structure, space, because if you would be sleeping in the same room with me, after I already got an apartment, then sometimes you would wake up into me thinking that I'm holding a gun machine and shooting at everybody. And I don't know if this was something that I was channeling, if this was something that I was see happening, if this was something from another life of me, or somebody, or from another life of somebody who was trying to project themselves into my energy. But this is what you would be waking up to. Yes. If I would think you are my enemy at this point, I don't think it's going to be good that we sleep in the same room. Okay, so good morning. And there were a time where I thought I am recovering from trauma. I am in a good stage, and so on and so forth. And I went to my mother's house, and I slept there. And in the morning, she asked me if everything was okay. I had no idea what she was talking about. As far as I was concerned, I slept very well. I slept so well. And she says that my grandmother would say to her that if she has such dreams, to wake her up. And my mother didn't know if she should wake me up because I was screaming at night, and stuff like that. Okay, so and my grandmother went out of Europe before the Second World War. Okay, my grandfather from my mom's side is the Holocaust survivor, was the Holocaust survivor. So that's the people that are going to build your country. That's the people who pay attention that there's something off here and we need to do something else. Okay, good morning, meet your founders. This is who we are. This is what you're working with. You think you can live in a kibbutz with everybody sleeping in one bed? Good luck with that. And yes, I have friends that are survivors from the kibbutz, and they were going through torture in the kibbutz life, and that affected them and their life stories, and some of them have lectures about this. And some of them are even American. Yes, I have an American friend that later lived in kibbutz, and she has a very interesting lecture. So I'm not saying names because I haven't asked her permission to globally talk about this. But yes, this is the stage that we are at. Okay, and of course, Aquarius is also the nervous system. So nervous system and the outcast. So how do you treat the crazy people? Okay, it's not about just 12th house. For me, it's 12th house, absolutely. It's that thing comes up. But how do you treat the crazy people? How do you treat the outcast? Do you even know to identify the outcast? Because that guy who weds girls and is pro genitalia mutilations for boys and girls and is happened to be Palestinian, he is not your outcast. Okay? Do you even know to identify the people who are genuinely the outcast? Okay, and this is something that you're going to begin to develop a sensitive ear to, and it's a process that we all go through. It's a process that we all go through. And sometimes as we develop this sensitivity, we try to ask the questions in the wrong place. Okay, I've noticed, especially now when there are a lot of volunteering and so on, people asking a person in the street that comes to take food until they dare to take food from like the environmental fridge and say, I hope this food gets to the right place. You are talking to the homeless in the street, my darling. Whom are you talking to? Whom are you questioning? Whom are you putting through, like a shooting glass? Come on. But this is the baby steps where people say, well, I want my donation to come to the right place. Okay, so it's not done from bad intent, but it can definitely create dramatically bad results. As you can see over, you call for genocide. It's like, yeah, free Palestine. That sounds like a good thing. And you don't know that the genuine Palestinians are dying to get rid of their leaders. And that can be generalized to some other conflict zones. But this is something that you know that we the people cannot sit on the fence, but we also have no idea what we are doing because we have no idea what we're talking about. So to not interfere, then, is one bad, is creating one bad because it's allowing atrocities to happen. And then when we interfere, a lot of people can be killed by this interference, very much like medicine, no? And when it comes to science, aliens, then are we created by aliens? Are we created by people? And should we talk to aliens? Should we try? Should we not try? Do they like us? Do they not like us? Is the robot coming to fight me good or bad? Well, who trained it? And did the robot rebel the person who trained it? This is why people will say we will be extinguished by transhumanism. Yes, maybe, yes, absolutely, that can be. So this transit is big. It is, I don't think it is even the last one. Is it the last one? Let's try to see what will Pluto do in the annual, because it has gone through back and forth so much that I'm not sure. Okay, sun, I want to talk about, it shows me only the ingresses. All planets I want to do, let's do Pluto. Yes, okay. Oh no, we have another one because Pluto will be leaving, ingressing back to Capricorn in September 2nd. Okay, so we are just having another, we dip our feet in the waters again. And this is what it is, okay? This is not the final one. The final one will be in November 19, 2024. So in that one, I wasn't mistaken. This is not what S.J. Anderson calls the for good one. Okay, Pluto is not entering Aquarius for good. It's just tending once again to this juncture of Hurra, diese Welt geht unter, to the how the fuck do we live without water, without somebody to stop these burglars or whatnot, without food. Okay, we have to get along with the people. And that the dissonance of the Aquarian placement, if you have placements there, and let me tell you a secret, even if you don't, you have Saturn, it's also ruling your Aquarius house, is that you want what's good for humanity. At the same time, you abhor humanity because humanity is doing stuff that are not good for humanity. You hate them and you want them to change in their favor, which is also in your favor. Okay? So part of you want to usher them in a good place and be like a father that's kind of like, hey, sheeps, flock here, please, you're going to your dad, come on. But you're not doing that from a connected place. At the same time, you are more with the common people, perhaps, than some other people, okay? I had a good friend, Aquarius sun, then we had a neighbor, and this neighbor, he was a bit neurodivergent, and he tended to harass people, women especially, unfortunately, so yes, and this was my friend. So he would call him, I don't know what the word would be for mefager. It's like, he would call like, how do you say it? like using a bad word for neurodivergent, okay? Like crooked or something like that, like fucked up in the head or something like that. He would call him that, yes? But he would invite this person to his home. They would sit together. He would be more friendly to this person and see him as one of us way more than people who are like, hey, don't use this word on this person. So this is Aquarius. Yeah, I have to keep it later. So this is Aquarius. And now you have to understand that wherever this is in your chart is that you're going to be experiencing, or somebody around you is going to be experiencing being a little bit outcast, but also not really desiring the company of people and wanting what's good for humanity at the same time. Okay? So Pluto in Aquarius is like that. So whatever you have there, there's going to be a place where you're going to be disliking people, and there's going to be a place where you're going to be just like those people that you dislike. And there's a dissonance you're going to have to work with. And now we are delving into the people taking their power, and it's just something that we go through as humanity. People are in baby steps of learning how to govern themselves, okay? And then they try to come up with ideas of how to do so, while Chiron is in Aries, which is the sign of autonomy and self-assertion. So that's what we're dealing with. And this is another delve of Pluto into Aquarius.